Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, as a follow-up to yesterday's snowfall analysis I did in the U.S. video, I want to show you the latest numbers here for the basin average snowwater content. And again, we've been talking as of late about the incredible improvement we've seen in parts of the Pacific Northwest, specifically Oregon and Washington, now with most of their reporting stations well above 80%, and a lot of them are at 90 to 100%. Same thing for parts of Idaho as well. The problem has been that over the last several weeks, the pattern has deviated away from bringing much precipitation at all into California. And we've seen these numbers in the Sierra Nevada go from what we're looking really good here now down to showing a lot of 60, 70, and 80%. And the big questions that I'm trying to answer in these forecast videos is, does this pattern change around to give us what we need in California? Because what we need is some precipitation. Just the last month here, so this goes back to the end of December, right now through the 26th of January, and it's pretty clear what the pattern has been doing. High pressure cells have been occupying this area, and as a result, diverting a lot of the precipitation around, and that's something I think I've been drawing for quite some time. This pattern's been around, feels like, for about 6 weeks now, and we're going to continue to see it stick around, I think, in the near term. Something major must happen to kind of break this one up and change it. So with that as our backdrop here, take a look at what's going on in the North Pacific right now. This was an animation starting yesterday that goes through early this morning. We do have a couple of large systems that are kind of waiting in the wings here to kind of hit the Pacific Northwest. And what you don't see is what's most, I think, critical to this, and that is this whole area in through here is largely void of deep layer moisture. So what we don't have is the atmosphere sending out of the tropics a good, well, atmospheric river doing something like that. Instead, all the action's up here curling up in these systems, as you can see, and they're going around what could, you can see it almost in here, this counter this clockwise circulation, this anticyclone, and as a result, it's just pushing systems north, and that's the setup we've been in, and we're going to take a look here in a few moments to see how long it's going to last. So right now, over the next week, we can see where most of the systems will target. This map shows you just through the next week precipitation anomalies, so departures from normal. We can see that most of our systems will be coming in here, so that gives the Pacific Northwest the precip, but it's going to miss California. So zooming in on taking a look at some of these numbers here, look at coastal Oregon and Washington with that direct flow coming in. This is another very, very wet week ahead with big snows accumulating in the Cascade Mountains. Remember that when we have flow that's coming almost directly from west to east, it hits our mountains perpendicularly. So our rain shadow effect is very much alive in this situation. You're going to see it really showing up here. But we get some snow that comes into the Blue Mountains and then, of course, into the Northern Rockies as well. And believe it or not, we still need more in those areas. But what I don't like to see is how dry things continue to be in parts of California, even getting over to Nevada and Arizona as well. Four Corner states showing up dry as well, despite the fact the mountain snowpack is halfway decent for this time of year. So speaking of snow, this is what we're anticipating over the next week. Cascade Mountains easily grabbing here, and they've even got winter storm advisories out right now, but easily grabbing here another foot to 3 feet in some locations, especially at those higher peaks. Same thing with the Northern Rocky Mountains. Good snowpack coming in here as well, but almost nothing, as you notice, down for the mountains in California with this current setup. So this is what it looks like. The pattern just keeps repeating, and the focus will be on this high pressure cell in through here. So as I play this forward, this is starting early this morning. Here's our first low. This is the second one you saw kind of really spinning tightly out there in the Gulf of Alaska. So the first one moves on shore throughout the day today, and then by the time we get to Thursday, the second one's already hit British Columbia, and the tail end of it has hit the Northwest. So let's start it over again. This is this morning, getting into this afternoon on Tuesday, getting into Wednesday morning right here. By that time, that next low curls itself up toward British Columbia. You can see it brings in its main frontal boundary here by the time we get into Wednesday night into the Pacific Northwest. Still dominating the pattern is this 1028 high right here. Very high atmospheric pressure, just keeping things shielded from getting into much of California. So we do get a little bit of a break Thursday morning, except for parts of Idaho and Montana. But Washington and Oregon don't see the next shot at precip coming in until Thursday night into Friday morning here. And then again, you'll see Saturday getting into Saturday morning, afternoon and evening. the systems just keep curling around. Now we do notice that by the time we get out to early next week, the models had been building in this really big ridge that comes crashing over like this, and it takes the high from here to here. But notice it doesn't last too long, because while that's going to give the Northwest a bit of a break next Monday night into Tuesday, you see it slides right back into its same layer. So it goes from here back down here, and the systems roll right over the top of it again for next week as well. So I know we zip through this, but the Pacific Northwest, you get very little break. Systems just keep rolling over this high pressure cell, and they're coming kind of fast and furious. And as a result, we maybe get 24 hours between precipitation events. So if we just look exclusively at week 2 now, we see the same thing. Much of the Pacific Northwest showing up on the wetter side of things, with California here still showing up in deficit as the pattern is not breaking down. Now, to show you what the temperatures are going to do and what this pattern is looking like, I want to just take you to the jet stream, and I'm going to play it out for you. So you're looking here at the speed of the winds over the next 10 days. And if you just notice, we see by the time the model gets here all the way out to Thursday night, the 6th, we just keep going back into this, well, protective ridge that puts that high pressure cell right here. We do have some change coming. You notice here comes the first trough sweeping through. So that's the one that gives us the precip today on Tuesday. Here's the second one. Look at the stream of moisture. I mean, this is jet stream winds, but underneath it, the moisture flow is following the same trajectory. What do we have over California? That larger ridge. So with this ridge building in, we get a warm up in our temperatures throughout the week, and then as it comes crashing in for the weekend, that's when the trough sweeps through and cools us down a little bit. But then after that, look, it just builds right back into that same configuration. We just aren't shaking this ridge here. And it's kind of, I've been talking about how I thought that we could get that ridge to move. And the models are just so persistent with it staying there. So that seems to be a forecasting error on my part, thinking that we were at least going to see enough of a dislodging of the cold air over Alaska and Greenland to push this out. But it appears at least through the next 10 days that's not the case. So what are our temperatures going to do? These are the departures from normal. So we're going to see this week starts off relatively moderate across the west coast. And then we're going to notice this is Wednesday's departure from normal high temperatures. Watch this. Thursday's departures, generally 5 to 10 degrees above. Friday as the ridge builds in. Saturday's departure, look at the Columbia Basin here, maybe 20 degrees warmer than average. Montana, almost 30 degrees warmer than average. A lot of downslope flow here, very warm westerly winds. But with that next trough sweeping through, by Sunday into Monday, we go back over to the cooler pattern. And we will be unlocking some cold air in Alaska at this point. But let me just show you this again. This is 5 days out. Look at the polar branch of the jet stream. Starts here, goes all the way across Asia and into the Central Pacific before splitting into a subtropical branch there. This is 5 days from now. What about 10 days from now? Split. What about 15 days from now? Split. The models are just not shaking this pattern. And we're not getting much help from the polar vortex. The tropics are reinforcing this, and it appears as though the strong global winds are wanting to keep this pattern in place for a while. So what do our temperatures do? Well, we've looked at the first 5 days. What about the following 5 days? We are starting to see the north part of North America lets go of some of its cold. Now the GFS is on the left, and it has had a systematic cold bias, but you can see the patterns are similar. See this? And therefore we could get some cooler air back in as we get out here in the day 5 through 10 time period for the Pacific Northwest. California, though, appears to be hanging on to neutral, maybe slightly above average temperatures. As I get out here even farther, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to split on the mountains. So the colder air will be kind of guided down into this direction. So Montana gets it back toward normal here for the Pacific Northwest and California. Just to let you know again, the GFS has had a pretty strong systematic bias toward cold, where the European has been much better in its temperature projections in the longer term. So tomorrow, I'm going to be addressing some of the longer term pattern potentials here in terms of what it could do as we move through the month of February, and we will look again to see if this pattern has a chance at moving and if the models maybe have got a bit of a failure here in the longer term forecast. But when we put it all together, this is what we'll be discussing. This is now the outlook for the month of February, and look at the dominance of that high pressure cell. This is now the third time in a row that the European weeklies have basically projected the exact same thing. And this will be what I'll be addressing in the video tomorrow. What are our temperatures doing? Well, at times we will let that colder air come in, but overall a moderate pattern for parts of California. So we'll address it again tomorrow. I hope you all have a good week, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.